Okay, hit us with it.
Hello, welcome everybody to God Dots, Ministry Stories, and the people you meet along the way. This is a cool podcast, me and Charles.
Oh, wait, we need to restart.
Why?
Because I didn't record my audio.
Check 1, 2. Okay.
All right.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing today? This is God Dots.
I love it. No, I love it. Hey, guys, this is God Dots, a brand new podcast with me and Matt. And we're going to call it God Dots Ministry Stories and the people we meet along the way. And why'd you want to do this in the first place, Matt?
Okay, so I always wanted to start a podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I didn't know how to structure it fully and how to start it, I guess, for the longest time. Me and Charles were both in an incredible ministries called Go Ministries International, and I just didn't have time while I was there to actually sit down and start a podcast with somebody and make it consistent. But from there, I had the desire of, I just want to talk to people about ministry stories, about what they do in ministry, like the fun, the not so fun, that's how the idea came about.
Well, I remember at Go, me and you would sit down at the table and we had all these ideas for like videos at Go Ministries.
Oh, yeah.
And we would do, remember we had the one that was it was about the blessing. What was it called? The blessing bucket? Blessing.
Oh yeah, it was the blessing bin. I remember that because we had
Blessing bin. That's right.
Well, we had food.
Oh, I might.
The idea was that a person was finally going to get in the blessing bin, and then somebody was going to claim a person because they were going to get blessed to somebody else. But yeah, that's a long story.
Well, I remember one where it was like Fat Wednesday, where we got this giant cake. Weakness Wednesday. I don't know if we still have video of that. I wish we could play it, but we had this giant king cake, and we just sat there.
For those of you who don't know,
stupid.
In Louisiana, yeah, they have a thing called a king cake, and they put these tiny little babies in cakes. They're little plastic babies, not real ones, obviously. Like, yeah, little tiny things, and you basically eat these cakes, and then whoever finds the baby, I don't know, they have to probably do something along with alcohol. Shreveport, where we had met each other, all along the billboards on the roads, they have gambling like advertisement. But the agreement that the casinos had to make with the city is that they will put if you're a gambling addict, they had to put, if you're a gambling addict, below the billboard, call this number. And so the Shreveport has a tendency to lean towards that type of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
first rabbit trail of the day is king cakes. They're overrated in Louisiana, I would say.
They're not that good.
But for Weakness Wednesday, they're pretty great. Is it time for our first segment of the day? That
you just want to start it? Okay.
Do you just want to start it?
Let's do it. Okay, so first segment we're going to have rotating segments on the show. And basically, one of the ideas we had was a story, a tale, and a lie. And the point was that I'm going to tell Matt one story that is completely true. I'm going to tell him one tale, which is half true, half lie. And so I'm basically going to have a story, but I'm going to weave some not truths in there. And then I'm going to tell him a complete farce, and he has to guess it. Now, you don't know my past yet. If you do know my past, it's not going to be easy for him because I have some legit wild stories that are true. So it's not like he's like this, like totally, he's not dealing with like Betty Crocker here or Mary Poppins. Like I can weave some wacky stuff and it's plausible. Okay.
That's true.
Yeah. And so whoever if he guesses which one's a story, which one's a tale, and which one's a lie, I'm going to take a shot of this red wine vinegar. It has no wine in it. It's just vinegar. It's disgusting. It smells
And then
positively foul.
If I don't, what I'm doing is I have this contraption of pickle juice and the mustard, and I'm just gonna dabble a little bit.
DP, Dr. Pep. We were
No, this
supposed
is-
to have apples. What is it?
It's not a sponsor, but
NW.
AW. Oh, okay, root beer. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We were supposed to have apple cider vinegar, but
I
unfortunately,
haven't been to
we
the
both-
store. I haven't been to the store yet.
My excuse is that I just didn't do it. I just didn't do it. Okay, Matt, are you ready for a story, a tale, and a lie?
Charles, I think I am ready for a story, a tale, and a lie.
Okay, let me think of a story. Okay, so first story was when I was. Oh, let me think of one of them. I can't tell you which one's which. Dang it, that sucks. I'm trying to think of something that's civil that you can tell to a million people. Okay, so first story.
Or just one person, aka your mom.
Well,
I'm sorry.
it's gonna be others. Okay, don't
Shout out to Pastor Denise. You're awesome.
shout out PD. Okay, so first story. Okay, so one night I'm driving at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm leaving my girlfriend at the time's house. And we typically, every time I'd go over there, I would eat a bunch of pills and whatnot. And I would stay the night at her house until like 2 or 3 in the morning. And then I wanted to leave. I was like, I don't want to stay here all night. I never wanted to stay the night, but I wanted to fall asleep there. It was very odd. So she would drive me an hour and a half all the way home into New Baden. Okay. But one night at 3 o'clock in the morning, I fall asleep at the wheel. I crash over the middle median in my car. I mow over a stop sign. I pop my tires, and then I skirt on the other side of the road, pull my car over into the parking lot of a bank, at a bank, and then I sit there for a while. My ex-girlfriend now comes and gets me, and we put the car up on cinder blocks, and then I leave. Okay, that's one of them. Okay, just keep track. One's a story, one's a tale, and one's a lie. The next one, I'm you're writing it down. The next one, okay, I'm at a festival, 15,000 people, okay? And as I'm going through this festival, I'm seeing people with inflatable couches, mattresses, all kinds of stuff. And during this thing, everybody is high as a kite. Okay, nobody knows their own name, nobody knows what color pants they're wearing, and Matt's like, man, this is killing me. And me and a buddy of mine, we were sucking down carrots the whole time because it's all we had to eat. We didn't have a budget for anything besides the tent and carrots. And so the entire time we were at this festival, we are eating carrot after carrot after carrot, and is the only thing we ate the whole time. Okay, third one. The third one, I'm 22 years old. I have a job at a coffee shop, and this coffee shop had an owner that was Austrian, and she hated my guts. Every single morning, I would go into work at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and she would look me right in the eyes and she'd say, "I wish you didn't work here, but you do." And I would start my job every day. I play Elton John, Tiny Little Dancer. I would turn Elton John, Tiny Little Dancer on, and I would just dance to that as I would grind coffee every single morning for 6 months until she fired me.
Oh, dang, this is tough. This is tough. Oh. Well, okay, I'm just gonna... See, oh, man. I think the first story is 100% true.
True.
Okay.
That
Okay. The first one's true.
I think the second one, oh my goodness. I'm now having second thoughts. I was gonna say it's a tail because I don't think you just chow down carrots, but I'm starting to think that one was a lie, and the third one is a. Wait a second. Oh, no, there's more details in that first story. Okay, I'm changing up my whole entire thing. First story was a tale, second story was a lie, and the third story was a story.
What? Okay, so do you think the first one's a tale?
Yeah.
Second one's a lie. Okay.
Yeah.
The first story about creaming into the stop sign is completely true.
I should have stuck with my gut. Dang it!
It was completely true. The second story where I went to a festival and ate nothing but carrots was half true.
I should have went with my gut. Oh my gosh!
I know.
I had it.
We just didn't have carrots. We just didn't have carrots. We had all the right food, just not.
That's what I thought.
And the last one was a total lie. Sort of. It was a lie.
Well, okay, so oh my gosh. So like I said, this is pickle juice, mustard, and a little bit of root beer. And I don't have a trash can near me. You know what? Oh my gosh. Oh. 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 Well, I got about half of it.
It was only supposed to be a shot. It wasn't supposed to be a whole glass.
It's not a whole glass. It was about that full. So
It was bad though.
Ow, that was terrible.
Should I take mine for solidarity?
No.
Okay.
I gotta come up with stories. Next week I'll have a story, a tale, and a lie.
Okay.
All right, what's the? Is it time for this?
It's time for the next one. You sound a little loopy. Anyway. Yeah, well, the next one's story time, and basically, because this whole thing is called God Dots, you know, it was kind of the name and the idea was really Matt's. I'm kind of here for the ride, here for the party, and
I can get.
Well, carry on. You know what? Carry on.
Okay, the next part is called story time, and it basically because this whole thing. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Thing is, okay. Sorry, I won't ask. No. This whole thing is basically it's called God Dots, which is the idea is people that you meet along the way in your life and the friendships that you make and the people that end up making your life. And so really it's going to be an interview process for both of us with other people. But on the first one, we're going to be interviewing each other. So the next part is story time. So it basically is like, you got 15 minutes on the clock, 20 minutes on the clock. Like, what's your story, Matt? Like, how'd you get in ministry?
Oh, so we're both going?
No, it's just you. It's just you.
Oh, I was gonna say. Let me restart.
That's why I did the introduction.
Oh, okay.
Starting the camera over here. I guess next week I'll go into more details of the introduction differently. Anyway, hello, this is me. And this is me. Anyway,
This is me.
So yeah, I wanted to talk about my ministry background, and a big part of my ministry background is my parents. Basically my dad, and kind of his ministry story ties very much to me, or more so his, I don't know how you would call it, spiritual, I can't think of any good phrasing of it that doesn't sound really hokey, I guess. But anyway, he grew up going to a very, I'm sorry, I think you're holding down a key on your
Oh,
because
I'm not even touching the keyboard. It's in my lap.
okay, my keyboard started going. I'm sorry. Okay,
No, you're good.
scratch
Good.
that. Restart. Okay, so this is story time with Matt. I don't know if we'll keep that in or if we'll delete that, but anyway. So kind of my background, it starts a lot with my parents, specifically my dad. More so, I won't go into too much detail, but my mom is manic depressive, and so she wasn't always there when I was growing up. But I called my dad yesterday to make sure I had some deals rights, and she was the reason that my dad learned that there was more to church than just the regular denominational church. So he grew up going to, I believe it was a Lutheran church in Iowa, small town Iowa. It's a famous church, actually. It's a Little Brown Church.
So it's actually a famous church.
Yeah, it's a Little Brown Church. If you look it up, it's the Little Brown Church.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, that's where he grew up going to church, but it was when he met my mom, she led him to, it was a Lau Lundstrom meeting, and that's where he first found out about the Holy Spirit and actually I believe that's where he started speaking in tongues too. And so from that time point, he had to find himself a really good church. And so this was in 1994. He took it. I wasn't born yet, but my older brother was born. He took up his family and he moved about 45 minutes away from where they were moving so that he could more easily go to a really good church in Clear Lake, Iowa. And from him having that desire to know God more and to learn more and to actually put going to church and putting God first over his area where he was living, his job, that's where, because I don't know where I would be if he would have stuck staying in that. I'm sure I would be a Christian, but I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, and I wouldn't know the things that I know today without that initial move. So anyway, which his favorite verse is actually Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things shall be added unto you. And so he really lives out his life seeking the kingdom first. Anyway, so you go to 1996. I'm a little bit younger than Charles here by a few years. Who does the math? I'm 25. So.
Oh, I'm 29. I'll be 30 here in December.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, so I guess you're about 4 years older than me.
Give or take.
Give or take.
Give or take a little
Yeah,
bit.
who cares? Anyway, so we were going to a really good church, and it's actually amazing. I won't go into too many details of the church. Oh, man. Some people might listen to this from the church. Okay. I gotta be honest. So the church was way more, in the earlier days, more spirit-focused, I would say. That is true. Every single week, it was someone spoke in tongues and someone had the interpretation. Every single week. And it was powerful services. But I remember specifically the pastor who was in the kids' church, he went on to pastor. He now pastors a small church somewhere in Minnesota. But I remember being so engaged as a kid, just listening to him as he just spoke. He's such a good pastor. Especially at that time, he had such an anointing to be a kids pastor. Obviously now he's not a kids pastor. He kind of went up the rank. But he went through Rhema. I don't know what year or anything, but I just remember having times where it was me, my childhood best friend, and his son, so the pastor's son, just sitting in the front row, and we were just laughing uncontrollably, or there's so many fun stuff. One of the things they would do is
for blessing bucks. That's what we called our money.
Mm-hmm.
Blessing
That's
bucks.
Christian money right there.
Yeah, they had a
line up in the front and see who could praise the best. And so we had our arms up and we were doing high knees or jogging in place in the front. And if you let your arms down, you're eliminated. And the pastor's son won every single time. Every stinking time. Like, there was even times in
That feels like a conflict of interest.
Yeah, like, he just was awesome.
It was the best. Yeah, it was just downright.
Yeah, anyway, I wasn't going to go down on that tangent, but that was cool. That led me to, years down the road. That was years ago now. That's like 15, 16 years. Well, no. Longer than that. My goodness. It's like 2000. I'd say around 2002 to 2004 is when I was going, like, that time frame. Anyway, where I was going from is later on, I wanted to be more involved with the church and help out. And so there was a time where I was actually a part of the nursery, which was fun, I guess, a little bit. I didn't change any diapers or anything. I was with the toddlers, and this is when I was about 12, or 11 to 12. And that's where I kind of started wanting to be in ministry and actually being involved. Fast forward a little bit, a few months or something, I started going to a youth group that was out of town, so it was a different church. Won't go into the details of why I wasn't going to the youth group at my home church. I just wasn't. I was following my brother. But that church led me to find out about Go Ministries, and later down the line, this was what is it called? I think it's like Faith Dominion Church. I kind of want to do a weird edit where insert name here.
Do it.
Okay, so insert name here. But that's where pastors beep beep. Which I don't know if we can say all their names.
Say all their names either. But
what?
If it was me, whenever you talk about something that could be disparaging character or it could make someone look poor, I think that you're allowed to tell your story to the God's honest truth. But you also want to give people the opportunity to not be who they were in the past. And sometimes when you tell past stories, especially old ones, it can pigeonhole new hearers into those ideas of those people in the past. So I think, if you're telling a true story, man, just tell your story.
Anyway,
I'll just, you know what?
Like a cuss word. We'll bleep it out like a cuss word and after.
Well, I'm not going to say anything bad. They're awesome. They're not pastors now. They're retired, and that was bummed to hear whenever they retired, but that's where I first heard about Go Ministries. Maybe we'll bleep Go Ministries every single time we say it.
Beep. They're like, are they cussing or what are they saying?
Anyway, that's where I found out about them, and then that link up in 2009. My dad got a new job, and so we moved 2 hours away. Just whoop whoop.
From the Little Brown Church or from Go?
No, okay.
2 hours away from Go or Little Brown Church?
No, not from Little Brown Church. That was years ago. That was okay. Let me recap. I introduced my dad in 1994. He moved us from somewhere in Iowa to Clear Lake, Iowa. So we were living in Clear Lake, Iowa. So I lived in Clear Lake, Iowa until I was 12, and then we moved to Sanborn, Iowa / Spencer, Iowa area, which is 2 hours. You just drive west, basically, and you're running.
Got it. From church, the people that retired.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you have been telling your story in reference to churches, so to give the places after was a bit confusing. So I just was asking if it was from that church that you really liked.
Well, I went to their youth group, but I went to another church. in Clear Lake.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
Which we could bleep out, or I don't know. They're not. I don't know. I haven't visited them in a long time. So now I'm in another church, which I was gonna say this. I was gonna bring this to God Dots. Is we were moving, and we didn't know where to go to church, but because we had the God Dot of Pastor Beep Beep Beep, they were able to be like, hey, this Go alumni goes to this church in Spencer, Iowa, and that's where you guys can go. So that's what opened that God Dot opened up the door for us to find a good church before we moved 2 hours away. So make a long story shorter, while I was there, that's where more ministry opportunities developed. That's where I developed playing the drums, because they needed a drummer, and so I started playing the drums for their worship team. I started working at the church too as a custodian, part-time, working underneath, like leaders of the church. And so that's where really understanding how a church works, that's where I fully developed in that. I was, at the time, this was, well, I guess I started playing the drums when I was 15, and so whenever I turned 15 to now, I guess for about a decade is how long I would say I was actually always serving a church / volunteering at a church. Anyway, I went from there, and then in 2016, well, actually in 2014 or 13, I don't know when, but I met Jeff Post from, he started going, like, I mentioned his name because he's somebody I want on the podcast too, just because his story is cool as well, and similar to mine since we're both from Iowa, but he would be somebody cool to have on the podcast as well. He became me and my brother's roommate because my dad got us a house in Spencer, and so we all three moved there. In 2015, he left for Go Ministries, and then in 2016, I left for Go Ministries. That's where I met Charles, which was cool. That's where I met a lot of people all over the place. This is another topic for another episode that I want to dwell on or touch on, is how to, when doors are presented to you, how to follow peace to know which door to take and when. Because while I was in Go, there's so many doors of opportunity that opened up that were awesome, and any place I could thrive at. But just knowing when and where to go is key. Actually listening to that inner man on the inside of you, where you are. Anyway, we could talk for hours on end of our journey there. Currently, right now, where I'm at is I'm in Jasper, Alabama. Never thought I would be here, but a door opened up for me to be here, so I'm serving at the church here, and now I have free time to start this podcast. Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah. Well, okay. So you're you're a young tyke growing up through churches. The place where you met Go was a separate church than where you were going on Sundays. It was just a place you were going to on Wednesdays, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So was Go really your first like full-time ministry? Like this is your whole life?
Like when I came to Go?
Yeah, when you came to Go, was that like your first stint on full-time ministry?
I guess in terms of like 24 hours, it was like I said before, I had worked at my church before coming to Go, and I did volunteer helping with the youth and with the worship team. So I was never paid to minister. Still not really am now, but Go was like basically Go is like broaden more of the doors, I would say, to ministry and what it can look like and, you know, things of that nature. Being in it 24/7.
But anyway,
For sure, yeah. What do you think was like one of the biggest contributors to you making all these God dots? You said that you had all these doors open to you, and choosing which one was the right one was important. Like, what do you think opened those doors?
Honestly, just creating relationships with people. You know, just talking with people. So I was on the road team for quite, you know, like, well, 4 years. And while I was home, I was kind of more of an introvert because I just felt like talking to people. Not a lot of people listen, different things like that. Da 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 da. But while on the road, there were certain people that I just gravitated to and formed those conversations that led to more conversations that led to like, hey, come over for Thanksgiving or, you know, stop by whenever you drive through. And so keeping keeping those waves of conversation open, not in like a creepy way of contacting the person 24/7 or appearing at their front door. You know, you don't want to meet a pastor and be like, hey, I'm just going to come over.
Yeah.
But, you know, keeping that wave of, you know, there's people I text to and there's people that's like almost family. And I don't know why. I guess I'm a fun-loving guy. I really don't fully know, but what I would say is, like, most important is just having those real, like, opening up those conversations, not being afraid to, you know, talk. Yeah.
I There's something definitely in that, because one thing that I've not been good about is managing relationships. And I don't mean in the sense of like managing it like a manager, but just keeping up with people. Like, one thing that Pastor Steve at Go taught me one time, I was in his office and he said, Charles, every once in a while, he said, not all the time, just text somebody, keep a bridge open. Don't let relationships die off. Just keep in contact with these people. Be like, hey, thinking about you, praying about you, yada yada yada, and make sure it's true.
Mhm.
Obviously, like, don't make some stuff up. Like, dude, I've been praying for you night and day. Just sit seamlessly, and that's something in my own life I definitely could glean. And grow from, because you are rock solid with people. I remember when we were at Go together, and you were like, yeah, for Thanksgiving I'm going here, and Christmas I'm going here, and Thanksgiving I'm going here, and through Christmas I'm going here. And those were our breaks at Go Ministries. If you guys don't know, 24/7 ministry for a year straight. You get Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter. Do you get Easter?
Not anymore. But yeah, we did.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, you get some time to go, and you were always going with all kinds of people because you had formed all these relationships, which, that didn't that didn't really happen that way for me.
So kind of my pathway is, I would drive from Shreveport and I would drive up, and then I would stop in. Like one time I stopped in Kansas, because there was a church that had a coffee shop there. So I'd just stop by there and grab a chai tea latte. It was about a half-hour drive long. It made my drive about a half hour longer, I would say. And then I would drive out of the way another half hour, I would say, I think. And I would stop in Missouri where, and just stop for lunch with someone there. And then I would drive the rest of the way up to Iowa. That's just an example of what I did whenever I went up to Iowa. So I like being able to, I like being able to hook people up, like just hook up with people and like send them a text and be like, hey, I'd love to give you a high five as I drive drive through, And then there was places that I spent the night at too. A lot of which was, like, a lot of Thanksgivings were over in, where I'm at now, and that's where that door opened, where now I'm living in the pastor's basement. which sounds weird, but it's a really nice basement.
Yeah, it's just a big house. It's not like a dingy basement.
No, yeah, this is nice. So yeah, just just talk to people. Like, don't be so just on your phone or distant from people, which I can be. I can be when I'm like in my own space at home, but like when I'm outside, out in ministry field, it's like keep those doors open. Anyway, that's all I have for that. Do you have anything else, or are you just eating cookies?
Well, my wife just gave me a cookie, but Matt, that is seriously a cool quality. I don't know if everybody's like this, and at least in my experience, I'm 29 years old, and I'm not the most experienced person, but I've been, when I was 14, 15, leading worship in a church, and then doing drugs for 6 years, and then doing full-time ministry for 4 years, traveling the country, and then after that, living in like 3 different states. I've moved like 17 times, so I've seen a few people, and you're just a rare breed. You're just a rare breed, dude. You're so relational. You're good with people. Yeah, so it's cool getting to hear your story from a God perspective, because I didn't think that you were going to tell it from that perspective of like how relationships are open for you.
Oh yeah, I hope I did an okay job at cramming. I guess 25 years into a half hour.
If we get to do a second episode, I want to ask you. I'd like to hear more about Go too.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because the reason why, not specifically just Go, but when you're younger, and maybe this is just me, you don't have a head on your shoulders to really be like, okay, I didn't like that time in my life, or I did like that time in my life, or I specifically enjoyed it, or I learned this. Like when I was a kid, the things I could tell you that of the stories I learned are few and far between. Most of it was like, oh, that happened, and then this happened, and this happened. Like I wasn't cognitive. I wasn't making like choices. Mm-hmm. But when you're older, when you go into like, because what age did you go into Go?
Well, I was about to rebuttal and say that I went in older than most people do, because I was 20. I was 20 when I went in. Before I came in to Go, I already had some experience living on my own with my brother and, Jeff. So I might not be the best person to ask in terms of what you're saying, because I didn't come out ripe out of high school. I had a year or two in between. But I understand what you're saying. And
do you think it helped?
What?
Having a couple of years before like you went to like the program?
Yeah, I would say it. Well, for me, it did help. I can get into these details more and later on in other podcasts, but there was things I needed to work on before I just up and moved from Iowa. So it did help from my side. I heard the Lord to go, and He gave me a timeline of when to go, and so I just followed in His footsteps of what He told me to do, or what I felt peace about doing. Because I will say I wanted to go whenever Jeff left, because I was like, what the heck? Jeff is going, and he knew Go for like 2 years. I've known Go for like 10. Why the heck is he going now? But all in all, it did help in my process of growing. So, yeah.
Cool, man. First podcast. Tight.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Should we do a warning and a wisdom, or should we just close?
Well, yeah. Do I have a warning? Is that for me then?
Last segment is a warning and a wisdom, and it's give a piece of warning or caution from your life and a nugget of wisdom that we can glean and chew on from your life. So basically, for everything that you've learned, what's a hot warning and a really good wisdom?
Oh, this is gonna sound different, but for me, I would say, oh gosh, a word of wisdom. A hot warning is this is going to sound weird, but this is what I have, is whenever you're pursuing a spouse, really get to know them and understand where they came from before you marry them. I'm saying this more so looking at my dad and how I grew up with my mom. Like I mentioned earlier, my mom's manic depressive. A lot of that came from her father, who was a drunk, and like, so just things like of that nature. And not to get in, like, I love my mom, just so everybody knows. Just while growing up, I do have a lot of horror stories that happened with my mom. But as of right now, I love her. I talk to her. I try to I stay in contact with her. I don't know how often I call her, but I write her letters and stuff. So all that's good, but not so. All that to say is God can restore those type of relationships. Gosh. Anyway, but just
that mustard's doing you in.
Yeah, it's really doing me in. But what I'd say is, when you get to know a person and you start dating them, like, really get to know and know where they came, what they came from, what they even conquered, and just things of that nature. Which is weird coming from me, because I haven't dated anyone. I've been single. I'm ready to mingle. As long as, I don't know. I'm ready to start talking if somebody wants to. Anyway.
Oh wow.
Anyway, and then a piece of wisdom. I guess that's a little bit of both.
It is a
wisdom
is like what of both, to be honest.
Yeah. Another word of wisdom is, like I said, like, just get off the phone and learn to socialize, because it can be hard and awkward, but get involved in your church. Talk to the like, not necessarily talk directly with the pastor, but talk to the leadership that's, under him, of where you could plug in at the church and start having those conversations and forming those skills and relationships. That's my word of advice, you could say, for
today. Sure. No, definitely. No, that's awesome, because if a lot of times when people go to a church, they're attending. They think it's like something that you choose according to, but really the very basis of going to church is being involved, because it says that the body of Christ is held together by every part doing their supply, and the ligaments, what holds it together, is people doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so attending was never even part of the body of Christ. Actually doing something involved with church was being a part of the body. So that's like, that's like first things first when you get to a church.
In closing, I want to do one thing, a challenge for both of us. This is off book. Challenge for both of us. Our next podcast, I want to dress up. I want us both to dress up straight to the nines, as if we're mob bosses.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am serious.
Like a mob. I don't even know if I have the clothes. Can I be a country mob boss?
What? Okay, just dress up as a mob boss. That's up to interpretation.
Okay. Let me write this down. I'm gonna forget it if I'm gonna write it down. Okay, let me write it down. Okay, homework.
So anyone watching the podcast, I don't know if we'll be audio only for this one or video, but we're gonna have a costume contest, and you guys can vote on which costume is better. This is also for Instagram, because we'll post separately, because we'll be able to take pictures of us dressed up. Okay.
This was a good idea, Matt. This was a good idea.
I like this conversation.
Did you know you're going to spring it on me or something? Did you know you were going to spring it on me like that?
No, I just knew that we needed something fun for the end. And something for the people to look forward to. All right, next week, this has been God Dots, Ministry Stories, and people you meet along the way. Next week, will be Charles's story. I'm excited to hear about it. It might be 2 hours long because he's got an awesome story. And I'm excited for y'all to hear it. So next week, get ready for that. Love y'all.